All right. Canada, the new prime minister is Mark Carney, right? What's interesting is it seems like the Liberty Party seems like doing much better now, and there's
Yeah.
even some people saying maybe they actually can win in October.
Yeah.
That's changed fast. What's your take on that?
Well, there's two things. There's two things that have happened. Firstly, we've had this pressure from Donald Trump, and he's talking about absorbing Canada and all of that, and that's created a patriotic backlash. And the Liberal Party has benefited from it because the Conservatives are seen by many people as much too close to America and too
Mhm.
close to Donald Trump himself. So that is a factor not to be underestimated. Secondly, they've dumped a deeply unpopular and very polarizing Prime Minister, Justin
Uh-huh.
Trudeau, and they've come up with a bland, or so they think, a bland technocrat, which is Mark Carney. People are saying, "Oh, what a huge relief! Now we got Mark Carney, and this is makes it possible to vote for the Liberals again." I saw this happen, by the way, in 1990 in Britain when the Conservatives, who were very unpopular, dumped Margaret Thatcher, who was deeply unpopular at the time. I remember when she was forced out, I was in one of the London metro trains,
Hmm.
and it was announced over the public speaker that Margaret Thatcher had fallen, and everybody stood up and cheered. I mean, it's quite amazing to see, actually. Yeah, an event that people don't talk about much.
Hmm.
But she was replaced, and they brought in John Major, who's absolute bland technocrat, and people were overjoyed, and they voted for the Conservatives again. Um, they will regret it. Technocrats make very bad prime ministers, very bad political leaders. They are not people who ultimately are able to hold things together for very long.
Now, it's interesting you're talking about Margaret Thatcher. I remember that too. It was a very dramatic. It was, in China. I didn't think we were expecting that. So
No.
he had a meeting in the EU, right? And somehow there was almost like an internal coup against her or something. Wasn't it?
Well, absolutely. That's completely correct. There was. She didn't like the EU. The Conservative Party at that time was very pro EU. Now, of course, it's very anti EU, but
Uh-huh.
at that time it was very pro EU. They got the sense that she was mismanaging relations with the EU, and so they got rid of her. But it was all a build-up of resentments and anger against her within the Conservative Party that went back many years, and she was very, very unpopular amongst people in Britain altogether. It's a
Mm.
fact that people don't realize about Margaret Thatcher. She was never as popular in Britain as people
Okay.
believe. She always had much more opposition, and she had obviously a very, very strong support base,
Hmm.
but I guess it was around 20 to 30% of the population, never more than that.
It, isn't also David Cameron when he lost his job because EU. It seems like this EU problem is a
Oh, yeah.
constant problem for the Conservative Party. They cannot make up their mind, it seems like to me.
That's absolutely correct. So you have this division within British politics. It affects both parties, by the way. Um, um, a large section of the British population is consistently hostile to the EU, has been throughout the entire history of its existence. Um, Particularly working class opinion is very hostile to the EU. And that creates problems for both political parties because they have one wing of the party that's very committed to membership of the EU, and another wing of the party which is always very opposed to it. And it reflects the split within wider British society, which has always been there.
Hmm. Yeah, Theresa May, right? Wasn't she
Right.
also because of she
Yeah,
couldn't stand it.
absolutely. And there's another example because Theresa May also was essentially a technocrat, very capable administrator at the Home Office, our Ministry of the Interior. We use the expression Home Office to describe it. But she was very competent person managing it, but she completely failed as prime minister. She didn't have the political skills to lead the country in the way that a prime minister needs to do. I should say Mark Carney is somebody we
Uh-huh.
know very well in Britain because though he is Canadian, he was actually brought to Britain and became governor of our central bank for a time, the Bank of
Uh-huh.
England. And the result was that we got a very good sense of him. He was very, very close to the Labour Party. just
Okay.
just just saying.
Uh-huh.
And though, as I said, he's a technocrat mostly, he's a very political technocrat. He basically did whatever it was that the Labour Party wanted him to do. um, Most people think that he was pretty competent,
Uh-huh.
but not inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I don't think he's going to be the right person to address Canada's many problems. He'll probably be very popular for a time, maybe about a year, 2 years, and then
Mm-hmm.
it will fade.
So you think if the Liberty Party wins in October, he will continue to be the prime minister and
Yes,
not
yes.
just transitional? Okay.
No, no, he will be the prime minister. If he
Okay.
leads them to victory, he will definitely be the prime minister.
Okay.
But as I said, um, his popularity is unlikely to last for very long.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Trudeau, whatever you may think of him, and I didn't like him at
Mm-hmm.
all, but he did have a kind of charisma,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
which I didn't understand
Mm-hmm.
myself, but which one had to acknowledge, which did reach out to many sections within Canadian society. Carney's not going to be like that.
Hmm. I, I find it's impossible for to find a perfect leader, isn't it? That
Well,
y-
the,
go ahead.
there is no such thing, and one should not look for one. But a good leader has to have certain skills. Firstly, the leader does need to have a feel
Mm-hmm.
for the sentiments of the people.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give an example from China. I mean, when Xi Jinping was moving towards the highest position, um, he understood that there were two issues that were very important to Chinese people. I mean, I'm sure there are many issues that are important to
Mm-hmm.
Chinese people. There were two that particularly interested them at the time and which weren't being talked about by other leaders to the extent that people in China wanted them to be talked about. One was pollution and the problems of,
Mm-hmm.
and the other was corruption.
Yeah.
And um, it, so he understood that. And he didn't just understand that. What made him successful was that he shared the feelings of his people
Mm-hmm.
about this.
Yeah.
And that gave him a connection, that showed that he had a connection to them. Um, so that's an important quality of a political leader, that he has that sense of where the people are going,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows how to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
So that also, and I can't emphasize this enough, he has to be prepared to work very hard.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's not easy to be a leader, right?
No,
It
no, it's
if
not.
if
It's not easy, but it's also something that, again, a good leader enjoys.
uh-huh.
Somebody who hates it, somebody who
Yeah.
doesn't want to be a leader, who very unhappy doing this, is going to be a very, very bad leader. Is going to get distracted. Well, I mean, you have many examples of this in Chinese history. All those emperors, for example, in the past, who weren't interested. Wasn't the one who, for 20 years, basically refused to do his work. Was it Wan Li? I mean, during the Ming Dynasty.
Wanli.
Well,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wan Li. I mean,
Uh-huh.
you can't have leaders like that. I mean, that is a disastrous situation. So you have to have someone who has that sense of fulfillment
Mm-hmm.
that comes from strong government. And I mean, there are people like this, people who will work 15 hours a day and it becomes their vocation
Mm-hmm.
and their life. Now, Putin has that quality. Xi Jinping definitely
Hmm.
has that. I mean, I know far less about Xi Jinping than I know about Putin, but I can
Hmm.
tell you something: a man who is as well briefed as Xi Jinping, as well informed as he is,
Hmm.
and as structured as Xi Jinping is a leader who works very hard.
Yeah, yeah. You simply have to put in the work. Yeah,
You
definitely.
simply have to
Yeah.
put in the work. It does, nothing happens by itself.
You can tell, actually, if you look at Biden, I don't think Biden enjoyed the leading part
No,
that
no,
much.
no.
I mean, he likes the privilege, right? Oh,
Yeah,
being the president of the United States. Of course, it's nice, but there's a lot of work to come with it. I don't think
correct,
Biden himself enjoyed that part, the
correct.
part.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean that is the other trap that many leaders fall into, is that they are become obsessed with the what in Britain we call the trappings of power
Hmm.
rather than its substance. The appearance. The bands that meet
Hmm.
you, the flags that fly when you appear, that kind of thing. If you become too interested in that kind of thing, then you're not going to succeed either. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ignore that completely
Hmm.
because again, the people want you to be dignified. They want to see you as a leader.
Yeah.
I mean, the people who turn up in bad suits and long fingernails, and they don't cut their
Hmm.
fingernails, and they let their hair run in all sorts of things. They're not going to impress anybody. Somebody who um, always looks dignified will always have authority, much more authority than someone who doesn't. But if you become obsessed with those things, if you
Hmm.
become obsessed with the ceremonies and the ritual, like
Hmm.
Brezhnev did in the Soviet Union, for
Uh-huh.
example, then
Yeah,
that's
he
not
got
going to
lots
work
of
well either. There's medals and all that sort of, that's not going to work well for you either.
yeah, yeah. It's so easy though for lots of in particular today's world with so much media on all the
Yeah.
time. So lots of time they only pay attention to the surface, for
Yes.
the cosmetic kind of stuff, not
Yeah.
the concrete work, right? Which is the hard part, but
Yes.
they don't do that. Yeah,
Yes, I mean it's the
absolutely.
hard work that is the most important, but
Hmm.
you always do need to have that feel, that 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 sense of the pulse of
Hmm.
your nation, and you can always tell leaders who have it and those who don't.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. We can talk next time again, next Wednesday. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Sophia.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Right. Bye.